It's Mound Visit with Jason Grilly. We got our two affiliates with us. Jason Speedo with Backyard U out of Redline, PA, and David Roth with Team Pack Baseball out of Rochester, New York. It's the Mound Visit. It's grilled cheese time. Grill, what are we talking about?
Well, we've talked about adversity. I think just from a standpoint of even if you've had success, I think we've mentioned the word adversity and how you overcome. I don't care if you're successful. It's adversity. Sometimes we could say would be taken as a negative word because if you've had adversity, people go, "Well, how do you overcome that?" I think when you have a target on your back and you're successful, the adversity is, can I repeat that? It's even a bigger obstacle. But how you handle that from year to year or game to game or minute to minute, I think that's a word. Again, guys, we've talked about baseball. We've all played it. We have our cleats in the dirt. I think when you face some adversity, that's the challenge of baseball. To do it as long as we do or have, you have to be pretty tough mentally. So how you overcome that adversity and teaching these kids to deal with adversity because we've dumbed down this game to the standpoint of like just be powerful, just be stronger, hit it harder, hit it further. Um, I could go on and on and on about the state of the game or the brand of the game, but more so what people don't speak on or they're starting to speak on more is the adverse conditions that these guys need to really realize, especially at the amateur level, because we're seeing kids quit at that 12, 13, 14 age where that cutoff is. It's the bases get longer, the mound gets a little bit further, the game it speeds up, it slows down until they can handle the big boy game.
So I guess my question would be, we can start with Jason first. Do you see a difference or a change in these athletes, these young athletes, in terms of their mindset and how they deal with adversity?
They don't know how to deal with adversity. It's for me. I've seen it become more selfish game. Kids always cried, not all the time, but more times than not, when I was growing up, if a kid cried, it was because they lost, not because they struck out. Their team lost. It meant more that they couldn't handle losing. They could handle striking out, but if the team won, it was okay. It's really become, hey, I didn't get a hit this time up. It's because they don't understand the game's hard. And I don't think mom and dad a lot of times understand how hard the game is. And you're going to have your ups and downs, do everything right and fail. Right. I always say it's the greatest, dumbest game on the planet because you can do everything right and fail. You could make a great pitch and somebody, just push the ball over the third baseman's head or first baseman's head for a base hit. And you made a tremendous pitch. He just won that battle. Right. That's the beauty of the game. But kids in general are, they're a little more selfish than they used to be is what I see.
Dave, do you think there's any way to, how do you coach kids that way to understand how to deal with adversity and change the mindset to something more positive and keep staying with it? Because we see the jump 12U to 13U. I mean, let's be honest, 13U baseball is pretty bad,
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the biggest drop off statistically, that's where the biggest drop off is, where they go find another sport. So,
it's not so 13U baseball is where they're all on the big diamond. So you have those kids who are 6 foot 12-year-olds. Now they had so much fun because all they had to do is put a barrel on a ball and it go out of the park. And now it's real baseball again. It's an out. So they lose interest because, it's so much harder, versus for me, if I see a kid who's that big and what have you, I would rather push him up a year early, get accustomed to the big diamond, see how hard the game is. 3 years before on the big diamond before high school that's an advantage, getting used to that throw and things like that. So I think we have too many people that are worried about winning a tournament and not really focused on the kids' overall best interest at heart. And down the road. You know what I mean?
Development, that word development that everybody
Word
calls
development.
yeah. Nobody wants to develop. Dave, what do you think about the word development? I mean, we're talking about the word adversity, but I think it keys into the whole development standpoint because, you know, how do you teach a kid who's dealing with adversity to say, I got to break to the next stage of the game here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things like for us. I know, you know, at a young age, like so our 13-year-olds this year, we started them on a big diamond or on a 50-70 at 11U. But we see them every day. So it wasn't really about the wins and the losses. Like we'd have our catchers call the pitches. We'd have our shortstop call the pick plays. We'd have our first baseman's call timing plays. So we try to teach them how to do things that they would be doing on a big field at a younger age and kind of build off the success off those things versus building, you know, kind of just on the wins and the losses because we were small and inexperienced. So if we can get jacked up on, you know, making a diving play or running a daylight pick or running like a cup spit pick with our catcher and our first baseman, and we kind of get amped up and excited about those things, it kind of takes it in a little different direction because we know that we're developing them long term. So that's really helpful. And the other thing that, given the adversity, I think there's more than just the wins and the losses and the hits and the strikeouts. I mean, I see it a lot with competition on who's playing in what program. So it's like a lot of social adversity too, because these kids, you know, they get cut from a certain team and they think that they're not good enough, you know, because I didn't make this team and now I'm playing on this team. So I see that a lot with like the lack of confidence that we get with some of our guys when we first get them. So for us, what we try to do again is try to build off the little things and constantly we're always there with them every single day. So it's not, you know, we have a bad game and then I don't see them for a week. You know, we're there the next day building off something. So long term, you know, we're building, you know, smarter players. We're building players that are kind of more focused on doing like the process of doing things the right way. And then eventually you start to see their confidence grow. And then by the time they get to a bigger field and they're 13, 14, 15, they really know how to play a game and now they're winning, you know? So that's kind of the approach that we take with it. But again, it's because we're able to see them, you know, 5-6 days a week. And I think that goes a long way with these kids that might come in with a little bit of lack of confidence and a little bit of lack of experience. So, you know, we just try to do it the right way with that. And also being aware of, you know, they have other things going on that, you know, might take them away from mentally being there. So that's just a few of the things, you know, that we try to implement with that.
You know, it's interesting. That's a good point on the social part of it, you know, because when we were going through, the standard was Little League. And then if you were good enough, you go play on a competitive travel team that actually went and go played against other competitive travel teams. But now it seems like the standard is travel ball. And after that, if you get cut, you know, where do you play?
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting, you know, how much it has changed at the youth level, you know. So, Grill, anything else? This is a Mound visit, man. This is a long one.
It's a good Mound visit. No, just circling back to the word adversity. I found my best growth in this game if you can withstand the growing pains of being in the game. I got the living snot kicked out of me a couple times. One in my amateur career was in the Cape Cod League. I was a freshman All-American. I got invited to the Cape League, and I'm playing against all these Division I guys from UCLA, Texas, you know, big time schools, guys that were getting, you know, that league, there's a lot of guys that get drafted, top prospect kind of guys. And I went from having like a 1.8 ERA at Seton Hall for my freshman year to like a 10 or 11 ERA my freshman year. And I was like, oh my God, I got some work to do. And it was a very discouraging summer. So those and again, along the way, I think I've told you in a previous Mound visit, sometimes you realize like when you have a bad year or a bad game it makes you, if you're not pushing harder, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, yeah, you got to put in the work, the physical work. But sometimes I think it is talking to your coach or reviewing some video or going back to the drawing board to say, I need to make an adjustment. where's your confidence? If you don't have adversity, you're never going to be better in anything you do, really.
I think that's a great lead in to talk or just to mention top 100 about that. The fact that you saw where you stood with Seton Hall and how you were doing there, and then going to the Cape Cod League and seeing other athletes there and seeing what you went through opened your eyes. You a little adversity and realized you had to change as an athlete and be better to be able to compete at that level. I think that's why these two guys joined the cause and become affiliates, because their athletes can not only compete with themselves against other athletes in Backyard U or at Team Pack baseball, but they now get to see what other athletes are doing, how they're what their numbers are like at these other affiliates. So I think that's like kind of like a perfect comparison.
It's huge. If I had a system like what you guys have, the platform of the player profile, to compare myself, hold myself accountable, to see where I started, and to see what took me from being a 24th round pick to why I got picked 4th overall in '97. What would quantify, like what were the changes to say, what did I do? If I could measure that and sell a formula to say this is what got me better, if I had something to plug into, I think that's why I think you're top 100 in the system we got.
You would have been a number 1 draft pick, bro.
I could have been the first. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? You got to find ways to stay competitive. But I like that what we do here at Top 100 Sports is we're giving you the platform to challenge yourself, push yourself a little bit, hold yourself accountable for the adversity that you're about to have. And I think all these coaches are understanding that this gives them access and a pedestal to show each student, each athlete, hey, you want to get better? This is your career goal. Keep it on as long as possible. Here's now some things you can do, and we can work on that.
That's awesome. So real quick, Dave or Jason, if you guys want last words that you can think of before we get back.
I was just going to tell Jason, I retired. I tell all my players I retired once a year. And that was usually when I'd start playing better, because this game will beat you up. And it's once you take that step back and relax, you're able to start to perform again. Otherwise you press, right? So there's that fine line between giving this effort and pushing too hard and putting too much pressure on yourself. And I think a lot of these kids young are getting this pressure that's unneeded where it should be fun playing the game, and fun playing the game while still improving. That's what I like about Top 100. Look, we can have fun. This is what we're doing to help you improve. Here's your measurables. Boom, 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 and boom. And it gives you a kind of a roadmap. So that's what I like about this thing.
Yeah, and the last thing that I just want to say is, like with these kids, they need to know that it's okay for them to fail, right? And be in a position where they're allowed to fail and they don't feel like it's the end of the world. But, like holding them accountable so they don't continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, especially if they have the information and the data and the environment to get better, right? So at the end of the day, if we're putting an emphasis on, doing the right things and, taking care of yourself and always trying to improve at a game where we're never going to be as good as we ever really want to be, we're always going to want to be a little better, right? So knowing that it's okay to fail, how do you handle the failure? And then being in an environment where you continually have a chance to get better, and then it becomes on them, and if they don't want to get better, well, it's on you at that point. And that's completely fine. But if you do, here's a place where you can get better. And here's an environment where, it's okay to fail, but we also are going to teach you how to hold yourself accountable for it. So I think it all goes hand in hand with building a complete player and person.
Awesome.
Good stuff, man.
So we'll be at Backyard U, and we'll be at Team Pack next weekend, and then we'll be at Backyard U early February. We'll be back down there. So we'll be doing interviews at all these locations. We'll be putting it out there on social media, and we're looking forward to getting these kids their numbers, and some of them updated numbers at Backyard U, because they already went through once. So we're seeing where they stack up now. But that concludes the Mound visit. Thanks, guys, for jumping on. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys soon.
All right, see you later, guys.